You are listening to the International Radio Report. Your reactions are much appreciated. Feel free to send them to radioreport@yahoo.com. That is, radioreport@yahoo.com. Thank you.
Welcome, everybody, to the International Radio Report on CKUT 90.3 FM in Montreal. It is Sunday, November the 10th, 2024. My name's Sheldon. I'm here with Jill. We thank you for tuning in to our show. We have 30 minutes of news and information and developments going on out there in the world of radio. So we're going to start off with a story that seems to come up every year as we start getting towards the end of the year. It may be on the local scene, it may be on a national scene, but it is stations and companies that own radio stations making cuts to their staff. This time it's iHeart Radio, which is one of the major broadcasters in the United States. And the story making the rounds comes from Radio and Music Pros, or RAMP. iHeart making massive personnel cuts in what are being told by several sources is the mother of them all. RAMP has learned that iHeart Media is currently undergoing another massive round of pre-holiday downsizing in multiple markets. These are the names of the confirmed departures so far and the cities that are being affected. They're waiting on confirmation of many, many more that will probably be updating this list in the near future. So we'll run through them quickly. There's a lot. I won't go into all of the details, but it'll give you a pretty good idea that this is happening nationwide in the United States. And people at all different levels are being let go. In Boston, the regional president, Alan Chartrand, is being let go. Also, they're doing some program cutting as well. In Chicago, the market president, Matt Scarano, is out, and so is their morning host, Angie Taylor. In Dallas, Patrick Davis, who is the senior vice president of programming for Dallas and the program director for one of their stations in Dallas, is out after almost 21 years of service. And a few other hosts of different shows on some of their stations also let go. In Des Moines, Iowa, Greg Chance exited as Senior Vice President Programming for Des Moines, St. Louis, Indianapolis, and North Dakota. Out in San Francisco, in the midst of these large-scale cutbacks, the Regional Senior Vice President of Programming for Northern California region, Don Parker, Program Director of KMEL and General Manager of Pride Radio, made the decision to step down after 15 years. Also some other cuts to personnel, on-air personnel in San Francisco. In Philadelphia, Mike Kaplan, who had served as program director at WRFF, alternate to 104.5 since September of 23, is gone. Washington, D.C., Paul Jackson exited as the morning show host at WBIG Big 100, and their midday host has been let go as well. She had been with the station since 2006. In Houston, Cara Lee exits nights at KTBZ in Houston after 19 years. She was also doing voice tracking at other stations in Cincinnati and Charlotte, San Diego, and Tampa Bay. In Minneapolis, Kia Becht has exited as managing director and co-host of their morning show after 15 years. Raleigh, North Carolina, Michael Berger, market president. He has been with the cluster since August of 2021. And when he was transferred from his VP of sales post with iHeart in St. Louis and became the senior vice president of sales for the 5-station Raleigh group. And Nick Jordan, one of their on-air announcers, also out. He's been around since July of 2022. In Salt Lake City, the morning show duo is gone after just 15 months. In Seattle, Jake Waldo, a 10-year veteran of iHeart Seattle, he is gone, a producer of some of their on-air shows and served as the cluster promotions director. Also in Seattle, Lee Callahan, the morning show host, gone after 9 years. Finally, in Tampa Bay, John Mamola, program director of their News Talk 970 WFLA and Sports Talk WDAE, is out, along with a couple of the midday hosts on the station. So that, they say, is just the tip of the iceberg. That's a pretty big iceberg already. There's probably going to be a lot more coming. And we have a story developing, which we'll probably have details on next week, that Cumulus, one of the other large owners of radio stations in the U.S., is also going to be making a number of year-end cuts. So a lot of these people are very senior people, some with them for a very long time. So it seems to me that they're unloading a lot of probably some high-priced staff. Maybe some will get replaced by AI for all we know.
Oh, you never know.
We haven't seen anything here in Canada yet, but Bell Media has always managed to come up with some surprises towards the end of the year. So we'll be keeping an eye on that over the next month or so to see what might be happening here in Canada.
So in our next story, very interesting one, WKMI 1360 AM in Kalamazoo, Michigan, radio signal was picked up in Norway. This is by Jacob Harrison, WKMI. Radio always finds a way. No matter how technology progresses, no matter how the public's ingestion of media changes, radio finds a way. How the radio industry has evolved over the years can somewhat be in spite of itself. What with all the layoffs and the focus shift to digital marketing, radio persists onward, still hoping to freely entertain and inform the public. Still, the evolutions haven't always been kind. I'm the brand manager of WKMI, but you've probably never heard my voice on the legacy AM station, even if you happen to be an avid listener. The talk station is nearly entirely automated these days, as there isn't much room for innovation in the current climate of radio, particularly on the AM dial. However, after nearly 80 years on the air, WKMI recently did something quite special in 2024. Conditions were just right for the station to be heard all the way out in the northern reaches of the world. Torgeir Nien, an AM radio enthusiast on the south coast of Oslo, Norway, listens out for long-distance AM signals as a hobby. He has a software-defined radio connected to a PC equipped with a software called Jaguar and an antenna. That collection of technology allows him to tune to the AM signal band and listen out for AM radio signals. He sent me a clip that he picked up in January 2024. It would appear that Nien found the workaround to listen to our station anywhere in the world without the need for our app. Very glad to catch WKMI over here around 4,000 miles away, Nien emailed me. WKMI is very difficult to hear in Norway, even for AM enthusiasts, as WDRC in Hartford usually blocks other U.S. signals. However, in January, AM reception conditions were superb, and WKMI got through for a while. Most people dismiss AM signals these days. Admittedly, so do I. I'm not sure in my 30 years of life I've ever personally listened to an AM station with any intent beyond fixing something on WKMI over the past year and a half. But there's a certain respect anyone who works with or in radio should have with the signal. People who love AM radio love it for a good reason. Nien explained to me how he got into the hobby of fishing for these perseverant signals. When I discovered AM radio years ago, it was a time when there were no internet, no apps, no anything, Nien wrote. So to listen to stations around the world was really fascinating. My interest to radio even stretched to starting a community FM radio station in the town I grew up. WKMI has a long history in the Kalamazoo area. It was once a top 40 station and one of the most successful and innovative stations in the state. It's not like that anymore, but it's still capable of something special, at least through the power of radio and its unparalleled persistence in the media landscape. So, some good DXing there.
Yeah, we certainly know what it's all about. I mean, that's a good part of what our show is all about. But, being able to listen to long-distance signals. The Norwegians, the Finns, the Swedes, they're all very big into medium-wave DXing. They're up in the high northern reaches of the planet, and conditions are often very, very good to pick up stations across into North America. So this was a good one. Glad he took the time to report it, and certainly the station had an interesting and exciting reaction to it. I find it interesting that the guy himself at the station, though, says he's never listened to AM radio, yet he works at one. So that's rather strange in itself. So there you go. The power of radio, as they say, it can cut through and make it to a lot of places that other things can't. It's a fun activity, and I think a lot of us radio hobbyists, that's how we got started in many cases, was, maybe even with a small transistor radio, tuning around and listening to stations that were coming from places outside of your own city. It was kind of magic to hear those signals coming out of the radio. So still going strong today, that's for sure.
Yep.
We have another story that's kind of an interesting connection between radio, broadcast radio, and amateur radio. It comes from Dan Devilio through Radio World. WKHS 90.5 FM in Worton, Maryland makes international contact with amateur radio. Broadcasting students at Kent County High School in Worton, Maryland, extended the reach of their voices beyond their radio station's distance, making contact with people throughout the country and around the globe. Chris Singleton, broadcasting teacher and manager of the high school's radio station, 90.5 FM WKHS, introduced students to amateur or ham radio on Monday, October 21st. With an antenna mounted in one of the back parking lots at the high school and less than 100 watts of power, the students made more than 33 contacts, all without the assistance of the internet. It was really cool seeing the students' faces light up when they each made their first contact, which reminded me of my own experience with this almost 40 years ago, Singleton said. Amateur radio allows people to connect around the world via airwaves. There are no internet, cell tower, or other connections required. While often thought of more than a hobby, ham radio is also an important means of maintaining communication should disaster strike. During the amateur radio day at Kent County High School, students gathered in a room at the station, watching displays and making contacts. "It looks like something out of the Matrix," said one student. The Kent County High Schoolers made contact stateside with operators in Connecticut, Florida, Georgia, Illinois, Indiana, Louisiana, Michigan, Mississippi, North Carolina, North Dakota, Ohio, Oklahoma, South Carolina, Texas, and others. They also reached international ham radio operators in the Cayman Islands, Croatia, Czech Republic, England, Iceland, Italy, the Netherlands, Poland, Russia, Slovenia, Spain, and Wales. Almost every one of the students attempted to call out to other ham radio stations using the K3ARS, Kent Amateur Radio Society call sign. And to their amazement, many stations called back to them from all over the U.S. and beyond, Singleton said. Community members Chris Cote, president of the Kent Amateur Radio Society, and Austin McLean, the society's vice president, helped Singleton and the students throughout the day. Brad Russum of the Kent County Office of Emergency Services and David Irby from Chesapeake College stopped by the broadcasting classroom to see the amateur radio setup. The event appears to have helped generate a new generation of ham radio enthusiasts. The students had so much fun that many have expressed a willingness to commit to taking after-school classes and studying to get their own amateur radio license, Singleton said. You can learn more about Kent County High School's broadcasting program and their radio station, WKHS, at wkhsradio.org. So that's a great exercise, teaching kids, first off, that the school has a radio station. That's pretty interesting in itself, and that they have classes dealing with it, and then to introduce them to ham radio and make them understand that it's not just FM radio, it's long-distance radio as well.
Yeah, I think it's really important. There should be a lot more of those in every school. Show what amateur radio is all about, not just to keep the hobby alive and have new blood, but also a lot of the people that work in the fields of technology that has to do with, cell towers and communications of all sorts. A lot of them are ham radio operators. Actually, that's where it all starts. The All Christmas Watch continues. So we have, of course, a few more stations that are going into Christmas modes. Locally, somewhat, we have, not far from here, we're here in Montreal, WEZF, Star 92.9, Burlington, Vermont. At 4:30 p.m. next Friday, November 15th, we'll go all Christmas until Boxing Day, according to their website. K Mozart 105.1, HD2 98.3 FM in San Fernando Valley, and online at kmozart.com via the apps. Beat all others to the punch as of Friday, October 25th. SiriusXM has made a decision to launch some of its holiday programming earlier than normal. Some programming started November 1st on several special channels, both over the air and online, or a combination of the two. In Cincinnati, Ohio, WDTN, if you're looking to get into the holiday spirit, in Cincinnati, a radio station has started playing Christmas music. While some were playing spooky season music for the ghoulish holiday, WDTN Star 93.3 FM began playing festive music for the holidays on October 31st. And benstown.com, a leading international audio imaging production library, voiceover, programming, podcasting, and jingle production company, is offering stations of all formats and market sizes its holiday-packed, market-exclusive Christmas in a Box audio production library. Stations can get the Christmas in a Box library for free with a Benstown library subscription. New this year are 25 highly engaging and fun behind the holiday hits features created by producer Val Garris. Also available from Benstown as a freebie is the Christmas in a Box audio pack filled with holiday cheer, including festive sound effects and music beds, sure to bring Christmas cheers to listeners who need a little Christmas now. It's available from now through January 1st, 2025. Merry Christmas!
Yeah, scratching the surface as well. There'll be many more stations doing it. And as they say in the article, it seems every year it pushes a little bit earlier. We're seeing October 25th, which I don't think I've seen one earlier than that. So that's a full 2 months before Christmas, going to an all Christmas format. They're packaged. Some of them are using this like Christmas in a Box type of programming, that pre-programmed material. So you kind of wonder what happens to all of those staff members when the stations decide to do this. Are they out of work? Are they temporarily laid off? Or do they go on vacation? Just what happens, time of the year where you need your income.
Yeah.
You got Christmas gifts to buy and whatever. And sorry, guys, we're taking everybody off the air for 2 months. We'll see you in January. Stations claim that it's very, very productive advertising-wise when they do make these switches, that people get in the mood. They sell lots of advertising. They hear products being advertised. They go out and buy things. So it's almost like subliminal messages, I think, of pushing that Christmas music and the advertising that goes with it at people.
So what's happening with our sun? Well, our sun is extremely active. Had a lot of flares, and including a few hex flares. There's also an increasing chance of flares because there's now 3 sunspot groups, AR 3889, 3883, and 3886, all capable of creating X-class solar flares. So I think the week ahead is going to be quite active. We're going to have to take a look, and, we never know when a flare will happen, which often gives a little blackout when it happens. And then, of course, we'll have to look for possible auroras that could follow. So this is something to look at. We never know. So the sunspot number is 164, the solar flux 260. But to witness all of this, you do need a radio and listen.
This is Glenn Hauser. You're listening to the International Radio Report. 30 minutes of radio news and information every Sunday morning on CKUT 90.3 FM in Montreal and online at ckut.ca.
We get into some international news, starting with a story out of Kenya. This is written by Joe Macharia from the kenyan.co.ke website via Glenn Hauser's World of Radio IO group. The Communications Authority of Kenya revoked the licenses of 426 service providers and operators in the Kenyan media and telecommunications industry. In a Gazette notice dated October the 11th, the authority published the names of 426 companies with their category whose licenses were revoked. Among the service providers are 13 commercial radio stations, 2 community radio stations, 9 free-to-air television channels, 1 self-provisioning TV station, and one media outlet under the bulk SMS category. Some of the popular brands revoked included Switch TV, Kwese TV, Kiss TV, owned by Innova Media Limited, Utuji TV, Najata TV FM, and Najata TV. Additionally, 18 network facilities providers, 113 application service providers, and 269 content service providers were also revoked. Notice is given pursuant to the provisions of the Kenya Information and Communications Act that the Communications Authority of Kenya shall revoke the licenses of service providers and operators. Read the report in part. 7-day notice dated October 11th expired, and the listed service providers and operators' licenses were revoked. According to David Mugonyi, who is the Director General and Chief Executive Officer of the Communications Authority of Kenya, once revoked, the companies will cease to hold any rights to engage in any business. Any resources held under any of these licenses shall revert to the authority upon revocation, added the notice. Upon revocation of the licenses listed, the service providers and operators shall not be authorized to operate and provide the services as indicated in the categories. In April this year, they shut down over 58 television stations and 6 courier companies for failing to meet required standards. The authority has the power to shut down media-related companies mainly because of regulatory violations and breaches of broadcasting standards. So it kind of makes you wonder what's left in Kenya in the way of these services, 426 of them. They don't really go into detail as to why, other than they say the violations and breaches of broadcasting standards. But that's got to be pretty major. Radio, TV, and other services, even courier companies. Very, very odd situation in Kenya.
In our next story, Burkina Faso announces ban on VOA and rebroadcasting foreign radio programs. This is via Radio Info Africa. Burkina Faso's National Communications Regulator, the Superior Council for Communications, the CSC, has announced a ban on the rebroadcasting of foreign radio programs until further notice and suspended the broadcasting of the U.S. public media outlet Voice of America for 3 months. Reporters Without Borders termed the actions as yet another example of the junta's desire to use every possible means to suppress any information that deviates from its narrative. Burkina Faso's government continues to hone its nationalistic treatment of news and information. In a press release published on October 7th, the CSC banned the synchronization between national and foreign media until further notice, meaning Burkinabe radio stations cannot broadcast live or recorded programs produced by a foreign media outlet. The CSC's decision follows the broadcast of the program Washington Forum, produced by VOA, on the private radio station Ouaga FM on September 19th. The CSC's press release also announced the suspension of VOA for a period of 3 months. Beyond the VOA's suspension, which has become a sad norm for foreign media in Burkina Faso, the ban on synchronizing national and foreign media is worrying. It will further deprive the population of access to diverse information. The authorities in Burkina Faso are using every possible means to make any information that goes beyond the imposed narrative invisible. We call on the authorities to reverse this decision, said Sadibou Marong, director of RSF's Sub-Saharan Africa Bureau. Rebroadcasting international programs has become rare in recent years due to the suspension of foreign media. The few remaining collaborations provided a way to access information that the local media are not necessarily in a position to communicate, according to a Burkinabe journalist who prefers to remain anonymous. VOA had already been suspended for 2 weeks in April 2024 after relaying a Human Rights Watch report exposing abuses committed by Burkina Faso's armed forces. It is another example of the short sight that has the US AGM on broadcast in Africa. They have shut down a few of the transmitter sites for shortwave. Well, maybe it's not a good idea. Look, you're getting blocked in a lot of countries for local programming. Well, shortwave is the other way to reach the country.
Yeah, so many stations looked at they thought the way to do it was putting foreign programming on domestic stations in the various countries. Maybe an FM station that carried some Voice of America programming, or other stations doing a similar thing. What, of course, can happen, and this is a prime example of it, the local government decides, no, we don't want our people to hear these broadcasts, so we're going to block them. As you were saying, shortwave is the answer to that. Yes, it's expensive, but the product that it puts out is not going to get blocked. It's going to get through and people are going to hear it. Take it off of shortwave and put it on domestic radio, and it's very easy to have it stopped. And our final story today, this is the continuing story of how dangerous a game it is sometimes to be in the world of media and radio in this case. From the Philippines, a female radio journalist shot dead via Radio Info Asia. A Filipino radio journalist, Maria Vilma Rodriguez, was shot dead by unknown assailants near her home in Zamboanga City on the southern island of Mindanao on October the 22nd. Rodriguez, 56, used to present 105.9 Media FM's news program, Barangay Action Center. She is the fifth journalist to be killed in the country since Ferdinand Marcos Jr. became its president in June 2022. It takes to 200 the wider tally of journalists killed in the country since democracy was restored in 1986, according to data from the National Union of Journalists of the Philippines. Police arrested a suspect on Wednesday, said Zamboanga City Police Officer Kimberly Molitas, but declined to identify the individual. Police were looking at a family feud as a potential motive, she added. The killing of radio reporter Maria Vilma Rodriguez shows that the murderers of journalists remain undeterred in the Philippines, said Sean Crispin of Committee to Protect Journalists Seniors Southeast Asia representative. Until President Ferdinand Marcos Jr.'s government firmly moves to end impunity, these heinous crimes against the press will continue. The Philippines is currently ranked 8th on CPJ's most recently Impunity Index, a global ranking of countries where journalists' murderers are most likely to go free. So this one, not necessarily a political killing, as many of them are, but this one seems to be more of a personal thing. But still, so many people in that country, in the Philippines, have been killed over the years.
And we have some upcoming ham radio contests.
3 events coming up next weekend. The first one organized by the Bulgarian Federation of Radio Amateurs. It is the Bulgarian DX Contest, 1200 Zulu November 16th to 1200 Zulu November 17th. 80 meters through 10 meters. It's both SSB and CW.
There's the All-Austrian 160-meter band contest, 1600 Zulu to 2359 Zulu, November 16th, organized by the Austrian Experimental Transmitter Association. The band is 160 meters, CW only.
And from the American Radio Relay League, it's time for the annual sweepstakes contest, SSB. 2100 Zulu, November 16th, all the way to 0300 Zulu, November the 18th. The contest objective is to support amateur self-training in radio communications, including improving amateur operating skills, conducting technical investigations, and intercommunicating with other amateurs. Stations in the U.S. and Canada, including territories and possessions, exchange information with as many other U.S. and Canadian stations as possible. It's all the major HF bands, 160 through 10 meters, no work bands. It is an SSB event.
So we're out of time.
We thank you for tuning into our show. We'll give you our contact information if you'd like to reach out to us. Our email address is radioreport@yahoo.com. Our show is live streaming and archived at ckut.ca. We have a Facebook group, International Radio Report. We invite you to join us there. Our YouTube channel, you can find us at youtube.com/@IRR. And subscribe to us there. You can listen to our current show and previous shows on the YouTube channel. And our X account is at IRRCKUT. We invite you to follow us there. And we hope you will follow us to same time next week, Sunday morning, for the next edition of our program, which is the International Radio Report on CKUT 90.3 FM in Montreal. Have a great week, everybody.
Bye-bye.